Yesterday we reported how a wasp nest on a tree at DS Ranayaka College in Colombo was removed without any harm being done to the students or the wasps. Members of the organization to protect bees predicted that the wasps will leave the area within 48 hours. Let's now find out as to how accurate this prediction is.
After the lapse of 48 hours following the removal of the wasp nest, members of the Organisation to Protect Bees and the News First team arrived at DS Ranayaka College to ascertain the situation. The magnificent bulu tree stood tall and proud, and there was no indication whatsoever to suggest that just 48 hours ago it had been home to thousands of busy wasps. The aim of the officials at the Central Cultural Fund was to ascertain as to whether the method that News First exposed in 2009 could be used effectively to solve the wasps issue plaguing Sigiriya.
The service rendered by News First must be appreciated. They create awareness on such things at a national level. I think the officers at the Central Cultural Fund, the Archaeological Department and the Department of Wildlife will be able to take this as an example.
Sigiriya is a place where people are frequently attacked by wasps. Can this method be implemented in Sigiriya?
One cannot stop wasps from taking refuge in Sigiriya. However, if we are given a chance, we can ensure peaceful cohabitation between tourists who climb the rock fortress and the wasps that live there. We can create a separate habitat for the wasps in Sigiriya itself. We can certainly do so. We think that this method will be successful because we witnessed it ourselves. It was done without causing harm to anyone. I believe that we will be able to use this method to solve the wasp issue in Sigiriya.
They started to attack us. Some climbed up and 2 to 3 individuals were attacked when they tried to climb down.
The wasps near the lion's paw were disturbed. They attacked us.
This is not Horton Plains but Sigiriya. Furthermore, who will want to wear a coat worn by so many others? I do not like the idea and foreigners too have rejected it. Besides, what will happen if a wasp gets into the court? What would be the situation if a child is attacked? The image of Sigiriya will be tarnished. I think this is unsuccessful up to a certain extent. The visitors sometimes do not adhere to our requests. I will prepare a group to look into this. We have also put up notice boards to create awareness among the public in Sigiriya. So we are ready to create awareness among the people by working with News First and other organizations.
Well, several viewers have expressed their views on the methodology highlighted by News First and the Organisation to Protect Bees to remove wasp nests. Here are some of the comments received on our website www.newsfirst.lk. Chanaka says, quote, "It is a timely move by officials to use this method to solve the wasp issue in Sigiriya," unquote. Let's hope the officials would use this method in Sigiriya, is what Vasanta has to say. Roland, commenting on the matter, has said, quote, "Do this without harming the wasps," unquote. You too can express your views by logging on to www.newsfirst.lk.
UNP parliamentarian Rose Senanayake raised a question in Parliament today on granting permanent positions to acting principals.
On the 13th of November 2009, a cabinet paper was presented on appointing acting principals to fill Grade 2 and Grade 3 vacancies in the Sri Lanka Principals Service.
I'm asking if there are individuals among these acting principals who have the qualifications for promotion to grade 2 and grade 3 positions in the principal service.
There are 2,118 persons who have the qualifications.
Are there unqualified persons who received appointments based on political influence?
Honourable Speaker, there have been no political appointments.
If they have been working as acting teachers for at least 3 years, then what is the obstacle in making them permanent?
It is your whining and nothing else.
Democratic National Alliance parliamentarian Anura Kumara Dissanayake raised a question in Parliament today as to whether or not Minister of External Affairs Professor G.L. Pires had submitted a human rights action plan to the United States. Leader of the House, Minister Nimalsi Pal de Silva, responded.
Sri Lanka Videsh Amatywarayata Washingtonete එන ලෙස එක්සත් ජනපද රාජ්‍ය ලේකම්වරයා ආරාධනා කළා.
The Minister of External Affairs was invited to the United States by the Secretary of State. This was more of an order than an invitation. This is because the Secretary of State had informed the government to ensure that the Minister also brings with him an action plan for the implementation of the recommendations of the Lessons Learnt and Reconciliation Commission. Doesn't this show that the approval of the US was needed for such an action plan? Neither the Cabinet nor Parliament knew anything about the document carried to Washington by the Minister, which was prepared in haste by the government. I expect that the Minister of External Affairs will notify this House on whether a document detailing the future actions or an action plan was submitted to the US Secretary of State on the 18th of May 2012 and as to whether this action plan will be made known to Parliament.
ඇතුළත් රහස්‍යගත ලේඛනයක් 2012 මැයි මාසේ 18 වෙනිදා විදේශ කටයුතු පිළිබඳ ඇමති ජී.එල්. පීරිස් මහතා ඇමරිකන් එක්සත් ජනපදයේ රාජ්‍ය ලේකම්වරියට බාර දී තිබේද යන්නත් එය මෙම ගරු සභාවට ඉදිරිපත් කරන්නේද යන්නත් පිළිබඳව විදේශ කටයුතු පිළිබඳ අමාත්‍යවරයා මෙම ගරු සභාව දැනුවත් කරනු ඇත අපේක්ෂා කරමි.
පාර්ලිමේන්තු මන්ත්‍රී ගරු අනුර දිසානායක මහතා විසින් ඉදිරිපත් කරන ලද ප්‍රශ්නය
I must first state that the question raised by Honourable Parliamentarian Anura Kumara Dissanayake is based entirely on incorrect information. We do not understand the parliamentarian's observation that the minister received an order and not an invitation. The parliamentarian knows the stance of the government is to include the views and opinions of its constituent parties. At the time that the minister had left for Washington, we had not received the views of all constituent parties of the government and we were still compiling the ones which had been received. Therefore, a complete action plan could not be produced. It is a complete fabrication that a secret dossier, including an action plan, was handed over to the US Secretary of State on the 18th of May 2012.
නිසා ක්‍රියාකාරී සැලැස්මක් ඇතුළත් වන පූර්ණ ලේඛනයක් සැකසීම කළ නොහැකි දෙයකි. ක්‍රියාකාරී සැලැස්මක් ඇතුළත් රහස්‍ය ලේඛනයක් එක්සත් ජනපද රාජ්‍ය ලේකම්වරිය වෙත 2012 මැයි 18 වන දින අපේ හමුවේ බාර දී තිබුණේයි පැවසීම සම්පූර්ණ ප්‍රබන්ධ කතාවකි.
Still in local news, UNP Deputy Leader Sajid Premadasa raised a question in Parliament today on the measures taken by the government to conserve Buddhist places of worship.
We are resolving land and asset problems, providing donations to construct temple buildings, and we are looking into the affairs of temples and Dham schools through the divisional secretaries and divisional boards for the protection of the Sasana and providing support and assistance as required. The reality is that most children in Dham schools are educated under the shade of trees because of the shortage of buildings. I wish to ask you, especially since Buddhism is going through a renaissance, as to when this will be converted into a practical development program.
කවදද මේ පුනරුදය ප්‍රායෝගික සංවර්ධන ක්‍රියාවලියකට පරිවර්තනය කරන්න?
නිශ්චිතව මේ
I can't tell you for certain because the number of children increases daily and traditionally Dham schools function using buildings within temples. People who went to Dham schools know this. We provide what is requested.
පාත්වගෙන යන්නේ දහම් පාසල් ගියාය ඒ ගැන දන්නවා අවශ්‍ය ඉල්ලන තැන් වලට අවශ්‍ය බඩමුට්ටු ලබා දෙනවා.
මම ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම වජිරාරාම විහාර
I asked that question as a past student of the Dham school at the Vajrarama Viharya, but never mind that. My second sub-question is, does the Ministry of Buddha Sasana have a program to provide temples which are suffering from shortages of resources with a stable source of income, for example, providing them with some paddy fields?
විහාරස්ථානයකට යම්කිසි කුඹුරු ඉඩම් ප්‍රමාණයක් ලබා දෙන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඒ ස්ථාවර ආදායම් මාර්ගයක් ගොඩනගන යම් වැඩපිළිවෙලක් බුද්ධ ශාසන අමාත්‍යාංශය සතුව තිබෙනවා.
We will provide the necessary support for places where there are shortages.
කවදද
When will the Supreme Buddha Sasana Advisory Council be established and programs initiated to uplift the Buddha Sasana based on correct advice?
ශාසනය නංවාලීමේ ප්‍රතිපත්තිය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න.
මේකට අලුත් මණ්ඩලයක් අවශ්‍ය නැහැ උත්තරීතර සංඝ සභාව තියෙනවා.
We don't need a new council for this. There is already the Supreme Sangha Council and there is also the Council of the Mahanayakas, and we are acting based on their advice to uplift the Buddha Sasana.
ක්‍රියාත්මක කරගෙන යනවා.
Time now for the cartoon of the day, which we selected from amongst today's English newspapers. You're watching News First. Up next, we take a look at Action TV.
The Aranayaka Telkale Primary School in the Sabaragamu province, which is over 60 years old, is facing the threat of being closed down. The school, which initially conducted classes up to grade 9, has now been limited to grade 5 as parents in the area do not wish to send their children to the school. One reason as to why parents hesitate to send their children to this school is that teachers do not report to the school on time. Over a period of time, teachers attached to this school travel to the school to report to duty on time in three-wheelers by spending a considerable sum of money. However, the three-wheel drivers are no longer prepared to travel to the school on this road, causing much hardship. During the first few days when the road was in good condition, vehicles travelled, but now even the van doesn't come because the road is in a bad condition. This road, which commences from Aranayaka and runs a distance of 4 kilometers, is the shortest route that connects Aranayaka and Hematagama. People in 10 nearby villages depend on agriculture as their livelihood, and they do not have any other alternative road to reach Aranayaka or Hematagama.
We have written to all political authorities about this road, including the Chief Minister of the province, the Governor and political party organizers of the area.
One fact that was mentioned in the letters was that a hoarding was erected 9 months ago, considering this roadway as the start of a program called Sapirigamak Supiriratak. According to this, a sum of 35 million rupees have been set aside to carpet this road.
Last month and the month before as well, the foundation stone was laid for the second time. It is wrong to point the finger only at the government. The plans of the president are not implemented by the local councillors.
Is the process of reconstructing the road being delayed with the aim of making promises ahead of the Sabaragamu Provincial Council election, which is said to be held in the coming months, inconveniencing the people living in 10 villages? Chief Minister of the Sabaragamu Province, this is over to you.